My challenge is, well, let's try to disengage or disconnect from that negative thought and write it down, and then realize how kind of silly it is to be so mean to yourself, and then reframe it. And by reframing it over and over and over and over and over again, hopefully we're going to make that automatic thought process into a positive one, where we are in the hurt locker, we're in the pain cave, and our first thought isn't, you freaking suck. Our first thought is, okay, you got this, keep going.
Hey, fitness fans, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and we're on episode number 65. And I had a ton of fun talking to Chrissy Barron. So Chrissy is the co-owner of Nova 3 Labs. She's also the chief operating officer there. And Nova 3 does high-end online supplements. I take their Max Sleep supplement every night, and it's changed my life in such a positive way. They also do online nutrition coaching primarily for athletes. I actually had our business partner, Mike Castelli, on the show not too long ago. We talked about the future of genetic testing and supplementation, which was super cool, really interesting stuff. Chrissy is also a competitive CrossFit athlete. And you can tell from this conversation we had, she's very much focused, and rightfully so, on the mental game of being a high-performing athlete, what that takes and the challenges therein. And she actually has a book. So let me make sure I get this right. It is available on their website, and it is a training log for mental and physical training. It's a 90-day book. It's a physical book, walk you through the whole thing, 90 days training of mental toughness. So sounds awesome. So let's get into it in a second. Before I do, I'm going to make you an offer. You know, if you're listening to this and you're interested in being on a podcast, you're a fitness professional and you're like, God, I've never really done one before. Well, I have just the thing. So if you go over to our sister website, fitnessprofessionalonline.com, I started another podcast. That's right. One was not enough. I started another one. It's called the Fitness Blitz. It's 8 to 12 minutes, audio only, preset questions that are sent to you ahead of time. And it's just a great way to dive in and get an amazing piece of content. Search engine optimization for that thing is already through the roof. So if you want to be found, you want to get started by being interviewed, just let me know. Hit me up, eric@fitnessmarketingalliance.com. Without further ado, number 65, super fun Chrissy Barron. Hey, fitness fans, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. Today, I have Christine Barron. Christine, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Super excited to be here.
I'm excited too. We've had some great conversations prior to this. So you are currently Director of Operations for Nova 3 Labs. You also have a long athletic background, and you're also digging into some really cool areas of psychology too. So I don't want to butcher that. Why don't you tell people a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah. So in college, I studied a little bit of psychology and then actually changed my major to business. Mm-hmm. And both of that ended up actually helping when I invested in Nova 3 Labs, which before that we had a different name, but we're now Nova 3 Labs. Okay. And so I have been running the company with Mike for the past 3 years. And about a year ago, I thought to myself, I'd really love to understand the psychological aspect of being an athlete. Mm-hmm. And I see a huge deficit in the CrossFit space, specifically CrossFit, as in, I think everyone says it's 90% mental, right? And 10% performance and whatever the statistic is, because we could never really prove that. The reality is that your mental game is really important in the sport, yet it's not something that anyone has really ever talked about, right? And I think it is such a vague term, mental game, right? It's like, well, how do I make my brain, speak better to itself, right? Yeah. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But I was a college cheerleader at my college in California, and I went to school at Cal State Northridge.
Okay.
Go Matadors. And I think that being a college athlete, aside from juggling everything, but the mental aspect of it was really hard, especially with tumbling and gymnastics. And I don't know if other people will understand that, but running, tumbling, gymnastics, standing, tumbling, it's very mental. You have to believe in yourself that you're not going to break your neck, especially on hardwood floors, because we had to cheer for basketball. So I have a lot of great memories to pull from to be like, oh, this is probably not how you should think about that, or this is probably not how you should do that, right? Yeah. So I went through that to understand it.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah. I've always wondered, I look at, I was actually in a study group in college with cheerleaders, and I would just like the injuries that they would have. I was like, Jesus, you guys are crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So you're a little bit, you got a little bit of nuts in you, I'm sure, to be able to do that sport.
It was so much fun, but I think now people always ask, can you still throw your tumbling? And I'm like, I just like touch my lower back. I'm like, oh, I don't have that flexibility anymore, right? Especially in CrossFit, like we don't move through that plane. We're like very right. Front back. So yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I can still do that, but at least I have my glory days and I have my videos, and I'm like, well, here was 6 years ago when I was more bendy.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. You're taking a deep dive into the mental game for athletics, and specifically CrossFit too, but I'm sure it branches out into a lot of different things. So how is this journey unfolding for you? Where are you finding the aha moments, and where are you finding that you can help people?
So it all started when I wanted to understand things more. And I think that my biggest ploy on this earth is I just want to understand things. I don't like if someone just tells me something. It's like, but why? But why? And most people hate when I ask, but why? But I'm like, but why? And so I said, you know what? I told Mike one day, I said, I'm going to go back to school. Don't stress out. I'll be able to do everything. Don't worry about it. Nothing's going to fall behind. And he was like, okay, right? You're crazy, which I am, but it's fine. So I did a program where I was able to do the entire courses online, but in the back end, once I finish is when I have to go through my mentoring and all my hours and clinical hours and things like that. So I did it on purpose like that, because I said, I want to get all the knowledge, and then I want to figure out, well, what I want to do with this knowledge. Mm-hmm. So after going through, I'm actually almost done. I graduate in 4 months.
Nice.
Really excited about that. But after I'm learning everything, I came to a point where I said, how do I apply this? Because school doesn't teach you how to apply things. It says, here's the equation and do what you want with it. So I said, well, how do I apply this, and how do I affect people? Mm-hmm. Because as I was saying in our pre-interviews, I don't want to be a fraud. I don't want a fluff piece. I don't want to just sound good, look good, right? Mm-hmm. I want to actually affect people. So I started, I didn't tell you this before, but I started building out a mental health training journal. And I've been building it out for 3 months now. And I'm being a perfectionist, but that's just who I am. Yeah. And my whole point of it is to teach people in the beginning the sports psychology of the sport that you're in. So what does this term mean? Like, really, what does it mean? Why do we care about positive self-talk versus negative self-talk? What is thought stopping, right? And then I teach them how to apply it in the real life. And then at the end I'm creating like a competition guide, eating guide, things like that. So, but where the need came from this was something that I wanted that wasn't out there. And I think that's where most products come from. Yeah. Like for this podcast, you're thinking, okay, there's nothing out there that's sports and business and entrepreneurial. I'm going to make it, right? And I think that's what makes great things happen, is when you just kind of push through the vulnerability of it and you say, I may not be an expert at this, but I'm going to go try it and see what happens. Yeah. So that was kind of my history with psychology in general. And I chose to focus on sports psychology because that is a majority of my life right now. So.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I mean, with every, innovation is generally pushed by someone scratching their own itch when you come down to the root of it, right? That's where it comes from. And so, with this travel into mental speak, I guess, for lack of a better term, how has it affected your athletic game? And then how are you starting to see it help other people?
So we have self-talk, right? Which is basically when you talk to yourself in your head. So you're sending a message and you are also the receiver. So self-talk is not the same where someone cuts you off and you're like, this guy's an asshole, right? Or you just say the word asshole in your head, right? That's not, right? That's going towards him. But self-talk is saying something to yourself in your head. And we talk to ourselves all day in our head, right? And for most people, you're probably your own best friend and you laugh at all your own jokes, because I do that. I'm like, I'm hilarious. So we all self-talk, right? where it starts affecting performance is when we have positive versus negative. And so positive self-talk increases performance. And think of positive self-talk as just like, you can do this, keep going, keep pushing, and more about changing the game plan in the middle of the game, right? Versus freaking out that you couldn't do those 21 deadlifts unbroken, right? Which really, who can? But that's besides the point. Because I couldn't. So positive self-talk has been shown to decrease anxiety, improve concentration, and focus. So if we think about, you have positive self-talk, then it brings these aspects of it. Then all of that together improves performance, right? So it's never necessarily been proven that it's, I think positive, I perform better, but it's, I think positive, I feel more in control. I feel less anxiety. I feel more focused. I feel like I can perform better, right? Negative self-talk does like the complete opposite. So negative self-talk, the state of arousal, it increases anxiety. It decreases your self-confidence and therefore puts you in a state of lower performance because you're not believing in yourself as much. So my biggest thing is, how do I help people stop that negative self-talk train in their brain?
Right.
So what were we going to say?
Oh, nothing. I was just curious, when you talk about positive self-talk, and I really want to get down to like the actual granular aspects of how you people help that, because I think that's powerful stuff. I mean, some people, use affirmations, it's something that a mentor has always given me, positive affirmations, but, let's get into the granular. So maybe give us something, give us some examples, like how like what exercises do you use to push the conversation in your head towards positivity?
Okay. So one of the biggest things that I push on people is, it's called cognitive reframing, but I just call it thought reframing.
Okay.
And you're basically taking the thought and you're finding a positive alternative to it. So you're like, wow, that's genius, right? No, it's not. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. Okay. I'm just sharing it with everyone. So my biggest thing on changing negative thoughts to positive is not doing it all in here. So I say, okay, here's my example. You have a workout and you look at your programming, it's 800 meter running on the true form, which is really, that's a reality. Yeah. So my first thought is, oh my gosh, I hate running, right? Because I suck at it because I'm 5'0" But I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm still going to do it, right? Because I'm stubborn. So then I start running and I'm on my third one and I start falling off pace. And my first thought that I think when I'm falling off pace is, well, of course you're falling off pace. You suck at running. And the next thought that follows up is, well, just slow down because you're off pace anyways. So why keep pushing it, right? And that's my brain's way of trying to make it okay that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, right? So my brain is trying to like feed it negativity to be like, well, it's okay, right? Like, who likes running anyways? So immediately in that situation, what I do is I write down the negative thought when I'm done with the exercise. Like, don't tell your coach, I just told you to stop working out right then and there. So whenever I'm done, I write it right down. And I always have a training journal that I write with, just like a blank page. And I then reframe the thought immediately. So the original thought was, I suck at running. I can slow down because I'm never going to be the best. I'm never going to be Usain Bolt, right? Unfortunately. And so when I reframe it, I tell myself, I may not be the best at running, but I'm still going to give my full effort in all running workouts. So the way that our brain uses negative thoughts is it's a way we utilize them in a way to kind of tell ourselves that it's okay. Well, it's okay, right? We can slow down because we're not the best runners. Or it's okay that we're not giving our full effort because we don't even really care, right? So my challenge to everyone is, well, let's take those negative thoughts and let's reframe them into positive thoughts. And let's not even use the word positive. Let's just reframe them so they're not bringing our self-confidence down. And let's reframe them in a way where we're in control of them. Because originally it feels like we're not in control because we're putting effort out and we're not reaching where we want to be, right? So the goal with that is to reframe all these negative thoughts by writing them down. And once you write them down, I think that also we tend to be a little bit nicer to ourselves once we read them on paper. Because the reality is, like, I would never tell you, you know what, Eric, you're probably not the best runner, so you might as well not run. I would be overly supportive to anyone else in the world. Yeah. You know, even a stranger, right? I always honk at runners. I'm like, you got it, girl. You got it, right? Just random humans. But when it comes to ourselves, we're so critical.
Yeah.
We're such perfectionists. Even, you know, especially business owners, right? And entrepreneurs. We're such perfectionists. So my challenge is, well, let's try to disengage or disconnect from that negative thought and write it down. And then realize how kind of silly it is to be so mean to yourself. And then reframe it. And by reframing it over and over and over and over and over again, hopefully we're going to make that automatic thought process into a positive one, where we are in the hurt locker, we're in the pain cave, and our first thought isn't, you freaking suck. Our first thought is, okay, you got this, keep going. Like, you can do this, keep going. Right? So that's my goal of trying to help people. Because I think that by me saying, Eric, okay, never have a negative thought again, you're going to be like, well, that's not going to happen, right? I cannot control that. Right. So the goal would be to train your brain to then automatically change these negative thoughts into positive, or for that first thought to be something positive versus the negative that often happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And, you know, one of the things, you know, I've been a competitive athlete for essentially since from the age of 5 to 35. And I'm very thankful for all of those things, because the lessons in athletics translate so well into business or just life in general. And, you know, one of the exercises that my business partner and I use all the time, and it sounds so simple, but it's really effective, right? And we do a lot of business coaching for other people. So we'll say, well, you know, what would we tell, if we were coaching ourselves, what would we tell ourselves? We'd be like, well, number one, take it easy on yourself. You're not that bad, right? But those thoughts come through us all the time. And it's just that simple point of like, just changing the paradigm or changing the vision of what's going on and the lens that you're looking at. It does a miracle. It's a miracle. And it happens all the time. So if you just stop in for a second and pull yourself away and look at it from a different view and say, you know, well, if I was coaching myself, what would that look like? And it just works. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be consistent. Would you agree?
Yes. And so one of the things that I was thinking too, before we got on here, was that, like, one of the most common denominators between athletes that have been athletes for a long time, people that are in business, you know, just like people in general, is perseverance, right?
Yeah.
So like owning a business is not a walk in the park every day. It feels like you are pushing a 1,000-pound ball up a hill and you keep thinking, maybe I'll get to the top, but you keep going, because the thought of stopping isn't really there, but you're like, okay, I'm just going to keep pushing through. And that's kind of my thought process with, you know, sports psychology, is that it's not like you and I can sit down and you can say, I have performance anxiety, and I can say, okay, well, here's the steps to help with that, and then it's going to be fixed in a day. You have to go through that. You have to constantly practice your skills. You wouldn't say, I want to be an elite level swimmer and practice 1 hour a week, right? You would probably throw yourself into that sport, hire coaches, right? Technique, all of this stuff. So we can't put all of our focus and effort into, you know, technique or working out or like the nitty gritty of it, versus when we're not focusing on the mental aspect at all.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the mental aspect is that it's all pretty actionable items, right? Mm-hmm. And I like actionable items. So I do well on that. So I give people what I like, right? Which is probably maybe a downfall to me, but I'm like, I do well with actionable items. So I'm going to give other people actionable items. I would never tell you, hey, Eric, go sit in the corner and I just want you to think positive thoughts, right? Like, how hard is meditation? You're like, okay, think about not thinking, and I'm thinking, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Meditation, but I'll still try to do it, right? I'm so bad at it. So I think that it's helpful that I give action steps, and kind of versus saying that this goal, right? Here's this big goal. never have a negative thought again, right? Which is unrealistic, but let's say that's your huge goal. Well, let's break it down. And let's say, okay, well, on Mondays, I'm going to work on thought reforming. And on Tuesdays, I'm going to work on thought stopping. And on Wednesdays, I'm going to work on affirmations. And on Thursdays, when I look in the mirror, I'm not going to say anything negative to myself. I'm just going to be like, you are one good looking human being, right? Whatever you want to say to yourself, right? And so break it down each day so that you're not looking at this goal as like so overbearing, but it's a small goal. It's a small attainable goal. And I tell people a lot, it's about the small wins. Like, what was your small win for today? And it's not necessarily about, closing that huge account that you've wanted to close for forever, or, getting that muscle up, right? But it's like, what is your small goal for today? Because the small goals will inevitably lead to that big goal. And if every day we're focusing on the fact that we're not reaching our big goal, well, that's just a self-confidence killer, right? So I tell people, write down your small wins for the day, whatever they are, even if they're so small. Sometimes a small win is the fact that you got out of bed. And it's like, heck yeah, because I could work from bed. I could. I don't.
Do you practice, do you do like a consistent gratitude practice as well with you and the people you work with?
I do. So one of the tools that I used previously was the 5-minute journal. Have you ever?
I love it. Yep.
Yes. Okay. So I am not perfect with it because I will be like in my head, I'm just going to think about it instead of writing it down. Right. Because it's like, can't believe I can't spare 5 minutes of my day. Right.
Right.
But so what I do in any situation where I'm immediately angry, so like someone brake checks me, this is always traffic. I only have traffic examples, but like I do not have road rage. I promise, even though it doesn't sound like it. But if someone cuts me off or whatever, the first thought that I've taught myself to think is to wish them good. And I know it sounds crazy, but if I sit there and I'm angry about being stuck in traffic, or I'm angry that this person cut me off, I like dwell in it and like gets into me. And then wherever I'm going after that, I'm like a little moody.
Right.
So I've trained myself to say, oh, I hope this person has a great day. And it's like, I say it out of anger, but it actually helps me like move on from the situation. Yeah. So that's a challenge everyone to try too. You can yell at them, like, have a good day. And they're like, what?
Yeah, I like that. I'll use it today. So I'm curious, you're building this practice. Where do you see yourself and what you're doing now and like in 3 years? Where do you see your place within the industry or within consulting or helping people?
So I think that what I want to do is consult with athletes, and I'm trying to build that out right now and how I see that. But my main goal is I think that there are certain areas that anyone can learn from, right? And we're talking about self-confidence, and we're talking about imagery training, and we're talking about like technique breakdown, and we're talking about negative self-talk, positive self-talk, right? So let's say I have these 5 areas that I think anyone and everyone could learn from. So I kind of would like to have this workshop where if maybe you don't have a specific problem you want to bring to me, like competition anxiety, like arousal regulation, then you can come to this workshop that I have and we can go through everything. I can teach you about imagery training, and I can teach you the positive and negatives of music for pre and post workout. And I can teach you, all of the mental aspects of it without you having a specific issue that you do want to work with. And then I do want to have athletes that I have a specific issue that you want to work with. And it's more of a one-on-one basis. Like, let's talk about it. Let's write it down. Let's create an action plan. I think that the most important thing in any kind of psychology is that homework that's done when you leave. And it's pretty simple, and I can compare it to like when you're mentoring clients. Okay, so you say, well, I want you to go create a business plan, right? And then the next session they come back and they're like, well, I didn't create the business plan, right? And so you're like, well, I'm trying to help you get organized, or I'm trying to help you do this. So you need to go and do your homework on your own time, and then we can come back and discuss it, right? So if I say, okay, so your homework whenever you're doing thrusters, because I know you hate thrusters, right? I made that. I don't know.
Everybody hates thrusters. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're doing thrusters and you get to that set where you start doubting yourself, what I want you to do is I want you to have a positive voice that speaks louder than your negative voice. I don't care if you're yelling in your head. I don't care if you yell out loud, right? Just say, I can do this, right? Or even some people talk to themselves in third person, not in a weird way, but in a motivational way, like, you can do this.
Right.
So I don't know if you've ever thought about that, right? I don't know if you ever say, I can do this. I think it's more natural to say, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this.
Right.
Right. And so another technique that I actually give clients is that I tell them to name that negative voice in their head. Yeah. And I named mine Frank because I once had a landlord that wasn't just an ass, and his name was Frank. Mm-hmm. So my negative voice in my head is Frank, and Frank he'll try to like speak up sometimes, and I'm like, Frank, calm it down, right? And there's when you name it, it helps you disengage from it, right? And say that it's not you, right? It's just Frank. He's just acting up. Right. And yeah. I mean, I'm being silly by naming him Frank, but you get what I'm saying, where by naming it, you're giving it less power. You're not saying that I am, not self-confident. I am not believing in myself. I am a bad deadlifter, whatever. Right. You're kind of disengaging from the negative words that are said, and you can then write them down, then reform them, then have your positive voice be louder than Frank, your negative voice, right?
Yeah. So. Awesome. Well, here's what I think. I think that you're going to start, within the niche of CrossFit athletes and athletes in general, but I have a feeling you're going to expand into something much bigger, and dealing with a lot more variety of people. But I think it's a really good place. So where do people find you, Chrissy? If people are interested in working with you, where do they go?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of building out that part of my website for the performance coaching. It's going to be on our Nova website, just because I am an owner of Nova 3 Labs, and I just feel comfortable kind of running everything through that.
Sure.
So in the meantime, if you are actually interested, you can email me. My email is Chrissy, CHRISSY @nova3labs.com, and that's a number 3.
Got it. And I'll put it in the show notes too. So, well, I'm excited. This is great. It's insight. The mental game is something that, a lot of people won't admit that they need help with, especially guys. But it's just great conversation, because I know every major push I've ever had as far as, moving towards success has always been a mental shift. It hasn't been something that's physically happened. So I think you're in a great space to help people, and I appreciate that you're doing it. And most of all, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. I really like talking to you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and I want to personally thank you for your support and listening to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. If you have a few minutes, I would greatly appreciate if you went to iTunes and gave us a favorable rating, as well as go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there. That'd be fantastic. If you know of anybody who'd be a great fit for the show as a guest, please hit me up at eric@fitnessmarketingalliance.com. That's Eric with a C. Also, I have 3 questions for you. Number 1, are you a fitness professional who's been in the industry for over 7 years? Question number 2, do you have an online revenue stream or multiple online revenue streams? Question number 3, are you ready to break loose from your local market and take advantage of all of the opportunity out there in the online world? If you are, I want you to go to fitnessmarketingalliance.com/mastermind. This will lead you to our Level Up Mastermind group and all the information that you need to know. This is a group for high-level thinkers within the industry who are ready to break free. So go check it out. It's fitnessmarketingalliance.com/mastermind. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you again for listening. I greatly appreciate your support. We'll keep it up from our end as well.